Testing, testing. Hello, testing, testing.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, students. This is my pleasure to introduce speaker of this session, Professor K.S. Suresh sir, who is working as Chief Executive of JSS Law Institution as well as he has been working with us since 40 years as a member of JSS MVP. Sir is specialized in international law. He's by profession, he's a lawyer and he completed his law degree. And he worked as former principal of JSS Law College, which is an autonomous institute. Sir is also a member of different bodies, government bodies. Sir has trained various officers, IAS, IPS, KS officer. Sir is always willing to impart his knowledge to all of us when we request him. He is also member of many university syndicate member and also member of malpractice lapses committee of many universities. Sir is also working member of different women's cell which stresses upon sexual assault prevention at workplaces. Sir has delivered many lectures on this topic. Indeed, we are happy to have him here today. I request Professor Bharti, ICC President, to welcome him with a bouquet. Thank you, ma'am. Now, I would leave the dais to sir. So, please.
Good afternoon. Esteemed chairperson of ICC of SJC, and dear colleagues and my dear wonderful students. I'm going to talk about a topic perhaps actually which is very new to you. Sexual harassment at workplace. Sir, why actually we should be discussing about sexual harassment at workplace here in this college? Sexual harassment actually can take place anywhere. And if you have any doubt that whether it is a workplace or not, yes, it is actually indeed a workplace, because under this particular act, though you are a student, you are considered actually as an aggrieved person if at all if there is any sexual harassment. Be that as it may. What exactly is the meaning of the term sexual harassment? Look, this is actually a universal actually kind of a problem. It is not just a problem confined to India. I'll be giving you some of the basic statistics as to how much sexual harassment actually is taking place across the globe in India, and in particular actually areas of actually workplace. See, sexual harassment actually is an offence, which was made as an offence recently. So we have a penal system in this country. Penal system means where you commit an offence for which actually there will be a punishment. That penal code actually was drafted almost actually 200 years ago by Macaulay, 1830. That was adopted actually in 1860 as Indian Penal Code. Since 1860, we are having that particular actually code in this country, even after actually obtaining our independence. You can ask me, sir, why actually we are keeping that particular act still in this country, even though we have become actually independent. See, Indian Penal Code actually is a penal code which literally, in fact, actually makes the list of all possible offences a human being can actually commit. If I ask you, will you please actually name the list of actually offences a human being actually can commit in a society? I think at the most actually 24 offences actually you can list, not more than that, I'm sure, right? But Macaulay listed actually about 300 offences, more than 300 offences. He named each one of them and he gave a number to each one of them. And the most difficult of all is he defined each actually offence. Defining offence actually is the toughest of all. So, for example, if you say, what is a theft? In that definition, all possible kinds of theft actually must be brought in. The most actually advanced kind of theft to the most raw, hand, who commits an offence of theft. Both should be brought in there. So the man who drafts that actually defines must be an extraordinary person. So therefore, in law, if at all, if there is anything which is toughest of all, is the definition. And he has given actually beautiful definition for all of these things. Much more difficult than this is defining a punishment. If you pick somebody's pocket, and what should be the punishment? When you try to insert your actual hand into the pocket, at that time you are caught. What should be the punishment for that? Everything actually has been calculated. And we have only 5 offences in this country, punishments in this country. You commit the assassination of Prime Minister or slap a boy actually in a neighborhood, we have only 5 kinds of actual punishment. Either you hang them, give them death sentence, send them to life imprisonment, or send them to jail for a term, either fine them or confiscate their property. There is no fifth kind. Why I am telling you all these things is because the sexual harassment also is one of the offences actually which comes within this particular actually system. But when Macaulay drafted actually 150 years ago, there was no sexual harassment at all. Hardly there were rapes. I'll tell you, he gave actually a definition of rape was so primitive, I'll tell you, we kept it actually till 2012. and as a consequence of which 100 rapes take place. Hardly 25 actually came to the police station to report it. Only 8% actually got convicted. The remaining actually went free. So now actually in 2012, after nearly 180 years or 90 years, we redefined it. At that particular point of time, we also included actually some of the new offences like sexual harassment. Sexual harassment actually is nothing but, it is, see, this act actually which came into existence 2013, I'll give you the various actually possible kinds of sexual harassment which you should never actually do it. If you do it, what are the consequences? And you might ask me, so wherever I go, either there will be only girls actually for this particular session, or in some of the places, very few boys will be there. I would say, I'll tell you, both boys and girls should be there, because one will be the offender, the other one actually is the offended. Both should be there. I'll tell you, it's an act. Both of you should actually know thoroughly well, because many times you do not know what you are doing actually a sexual offense. I mean, harassment. You do it because actually I've been doing it, sir, for the past so many years. What is there? No, 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 no. Now it has become an offense. The consequences actually could be very disastrous. So I'll make it actually very clear subsequently. So this act came into existence 2013. Before that, actually, a small actually backdrop. How actually sometimes the offences are committed in this country. Way back in 1991, the small villages in Rajasthan, a woman actually was appointed by the government actually as a volunteer to prevent child marriages. Right, child marriages. On some day, I'll tell you where people buy gold. No, what is that day? Akshaya Tritiya. Akshaya Tritiya is supposed to be very, very auspicious day for actually marrying of the daughters. So what they do is they try to find actually some boys, whatever may the age of the girl, they try to marry her off because that is a very auspicious day. To prevent that, the government actually envisioned a scheme where anybody actually trying to marry off their actually young daughters, you try to prevent it, bring it to the notice of the authorities so that actually we can prevent it. This woman actually was there in that village. Unfortunately, she belonged to one of the lower communities. There was a very dominant actually community in that particular village, very strong actually community. And in that one of the households, a 1 year old girl actually was being married off. 1 year old girl, maybe perhaps actually for 3 or 4 year old actually boy. I think that was the groom, right? And this woman actually tried to stop it, which was objected to by all those people. And they felt so bad and actually embarrassment for them. They wanted to take vengeance against this woman who actually tried to prevent a marriage. You know what they did? They gang raped her, and in front of her husband. When she went to the police station, the police were influenced not to actually entertain a complaint. They had to stay the whole bloody night actually in the police station without actually registering the complaint. Next day, somehow actually the police had to take, when the police were reluctant to register the case, how the trial would take place, you all know. So somehow actually the trial went on and all of them actually got acquitted. Acquitted means they were actually set free because the court said they are all innocent because there is no evidence as such. So this was actually being watched by some civil society people. They go in appeal. When they were actually took this case to the appeal to the High Court, in the meantime, an NGO called Visakha went to Supreme Court. They wanted to, in fact, actually make the government of India to bring a law to protect women actually at workplace. Because this woman actually is a working woman. She had actually some kind of a problem in the workplace. There is no law in this country. Therefore, you have to bring a law. In 1996, the Supreme Court actually gave the decision, holding all these actually the goons of the village actually responsible for the rape, and directing the government actually to make a law as early as possible. Our governments actually will be always in deep slumber. 1996 actually they gave the direction, and twice actually thereafter they gave the direction. In 2013, this wonderful act actually came into existence. They took nearly 17 years to make this particular act actually came into existence. And in the meantime, the Supreme Court knew very well the government will not actually act immediately. Therefore, it laid down certain of the conditions saying that these are the rules till the government makes the rules, act, you follow the rules. They are actually called Visakha guidelines, right? Basing on that rules, this act actually has come. I will never actually explain in detail because you will be bored to death if I talk about the provisions of law. Because law is such a kind of a subject, I'll tell you, I'm sure none of you will actually appreciate it. Somehow it becomes our responsibility to make it as juicy as possible. Otherwise, who will sit in the class and listen to all this actually dry and drab actually subject, right? We'll try to make it actually as palatable as possible. So this act actually firstly protects all women actually who are there actually at workplace, right? Secondly, it is not just protect, but also you should prevent. I'll tell you how actually can prevent it. You can put up a board, etc. In one of the places where I am still, I'll tell you, a sexual harassment committee member in nearly a dozen actually institutions. I must have investigated, inquired into about actually 70 to 80 cases in Mysore and elsewhere. And in most of the cases, actually, I found guilty those people actually who there was an allegation against them. That is my experience to stand today before you and actually talk about sexual harassment, because I have inquired into about actually 70 to 80 cases. In one of the places, I'll tell you, there were some 250 people actually working, and half of them actually were women. There was only one washroom, and that had to be used by both men and women. And the question actually comes into, is it a sexual harassment, right? And I would ask actually whether, according to you, it would be a sexual harassment. So if there is one washroom where actually both men and women should go and use it, I would say, I'll tell you, this is a clear case actually sexual harassment. I'm sorry, men, they forget actually when they enter into a washing area. Smoking, talking, cracking vulgar jokes, etc., etc. The same place had to be used by women means that is going to be most embarrassing situation. In one of the decisions actually at the High Court, it said, adequate actually washrooms, if not given, I'll tell you, that amounts to sexual harassment. I'll tell you how subtle it is, right? Sexual harassment actually is not just going and grabbing somebody, patting at the back or hugging, etc. Not necessarily. Even in a very subtle way, I'll tell you, you can actually embarrass a woman, that becomes actually sexual harassment. Therefore, it becomes a responsibility of the employer or a head of the institution to protect, prevent, and if there is a sexual harassment, provide actually redressal. Redressal means some kind of a solution they should provide. Hold him responsible, provide actually some kind of a compensation, see that actually there is adequate actually protection for all women. This is what exactly it is. It is also provided, I'll tell you, under the constitution. Let me not actually talk about that. What exactly is sexual harassment? I'll just actually give you a very sample of this, right? Definition, you may not be able to appreciate it. Look, a sexual comment or sexually determined behavior. When a man actually comments, and the comment actually is sexually oriented comment. Please don't ask me, sir, what is sexually oriented? You are all grown up actually people. You can understand what is sexual and what is not sexual. Should I explain that? I don't think it is necessary, right? So therefore, any sexual comment or sexually oriented or determined behavior. The kind of behavior of the man actually such that where it appears that actually it is sexually oriented, only thing you need to actually tell that this is how actually behaves, right? Nextly, leering at others' body and suggestive gesturing. You can certainly look at a beautiful girl, nothing wrong in it, but if you leer at her, that's extremely difficult. And you must ask me, sir, what is looking at a girl and what is leering at a girl, right? It's very extremely difficult to decide, because I know it, I'll tell you, only the man who's actually sexually, assaulting the other woman or harassing the other woman and agreed woman, only these two people will be knowing what exactly is happening. See, in other cases where actually the person was sitting there, next to him there was another person, he was trying to in fact actually communicate actually with the girl who's sitting right in front of her. They were communicating actually with each other through eyes, where actually suggestions, look, etc., embarrassed her. She files a case actually in the ICC, says this man actually sexually harassed me. Then who is your witness? They take me as a witness. What can I say? This idiot who's sitting next to me simply looks at her and communicates actually through his eyes, causes some kind of an embarrassment, and I should be a witness. I never knew this idiot actually is doing all this nonsense actually by sitting next to me. This is extremely difficult, I'll tell you. It is not just engineering subjects, you will be dealing with material aspects, right? Whereas in law, we will be dealing with emotional aspects, feelings, right? Extremely difficult to prove. Then you might ask me how to prove. I'll tell you how actually you can prove it and who should prove. I'll come to that particular point there. So you can't simply just look at a girl, there's nothing wrong it. If you leer means what? Stern actually a kind of a sexually oriented look. Don't ask me to demonstrate it, I don't know, right? You practice it elsewhere and don't do it actually against a girl. And displaying sexually visual material. So for example, in your actually mobile, you just open up, actually there is actually a nude girl's photograph, right? I'll tell you, and quite often actually showing to your actually classmate, look what I have brought for you, etc., etc. And telling woman employee about where she dresses up. Oh, this is extremely, what happened in one of the cases I was inquiring into. One of the office superintendents actually once, there was a lady clerk. When she came in a sari, you know what he said? Ah, how beautiful you are in this sari. ಏನ್ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದೆಯಮ್ಮ ಇವತ್ತು ಈ ಸೀರೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ದ. She thought it was a compliment. Any girl actually when she is praised, she takes it actually in a lighter side. Okay, compliment. Next day also did the same. Oh, ಇವತ್ತು ಇನ್ನೂ wonderful. She suspected this fellow. Third day it actually went still further. Right? Then she came to know that this fellow is trying to act smart. Re ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಳ್ರಿ ಇವೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡಬಾರ್ದು ಅಂತ she actually cut him down. After 1 week, actually, she comes to him with a leave note because he is supposed to, in fact, sanction a leave. He refused to sanction. Oh, ನೀನು ಬಾಳಿ ಸುಂದರಿ, ನೀನು ರಜಾ ಕೊಡಬೇಕಾ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ದ. This woman actually got terribly wild, she is asking actually leave and this man actually is not giving because I embarrassed her. And second time she went actually for seeking leave, she was denied. Exactly after 1 week, actually, case came before us. And we sent notice, asked them to come before us, and he asked, ಏನ್ ಸರ್ ಇವಳು ಮುಖ ನೋಡಂಗಿದೆಯಾ, ಇವಳನ್ನ ಸುಂದರಿ ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀನ. ದಿಸ್ ವಾಸ್ ದ ಕಮೆಂಟ್ he made. Hey fellow, don't ever actually talk like this. You don't have any right to, in fact, actually comment on her appearance. What business have you got? Sir, ಈ ತರ ಹೇಳ್ದ ಅಂತ. And explained her, look fellow, she can actually bring some other witnesses because when actually made this comment, there are other people. Certainly they'll come and actually be a witness. Once your actually offense is proved, your promotion, increment, all actually gets stunted, stopped. And there will be a remark. And there could also be what is known as a departmental inquiry. Then that man actually understood the seriousness of this problem. He thought actually it was a joke, right? Then there is a provision under section 10 of this particular act. When there is this kind of a problem between actually two people, you can strike a compromise between them. If the woman agrees for a compromise, you can compromise, but not actually for any kind of a compensation. She went, begged, crawled before her and somehow brought her. ಅವ್ಳು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು, ಸಾಯ್ಲಿ ಬಿಡಿ ಸರ್, ಹೋಗ್ಲಿ, ಅಯೋಗ್ಯ ಏನೋ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾನೆ ತಪ್ಪು ಅಂತ. ಶಿ ವಾಸ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಗಿವಿಂಗ್ ರೆಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಟು ದಟ್ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ಆಸ್ ಅ ಸೂಪರ್ಡೆಂಟ್. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ದಿಸ್ ಇನ್ಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಶಿ ಸೆಡ್, ಅಯೋಗ್ಯ ಏನೋ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾನೆ ಬಿಟ್ಬಿಡಿ ಸರ್, ಹೋಗ್ಲಿ. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಮೆನ್ ಲೂಸ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ದೇರ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟಸ್ because of these silly, nonsensical actually things. This is exactly what he's actually saying. If you really want to comment, if the girl actually with whom you want to comment, if she's friendly with you, comment, absolutely no problem. One thing you must actually understand. If there is a consensus between two people, it is none of our business. A man and a woman, a boy and a girl, provided they have crossed actually minority, they are majors. If there is a consent between them, and let them do any kind of a nonsense, it is none of our business. If the consent is lacking, I'll tell you, it is everybody's business. Right? So, if the man gives consent, if the woman doesn't give consent, that is an offense here. In the West, I'll tell you, the woman gives consent, the man doesn't give consent, it is an offense there. Right? Men actually do not have much privileges in this country because there can't be rape against men at all in this country. There can be rape only against women. Right? But if the age is less than 18, there can be a sexual assault actually on men also. Right? I'll come to that point later. And calling her at late night for dinner and such requests. Right? See, you could have actually invited her at the daytime itself before going off tomorrow. Shall we have lunch tomorrow? Why you will have to call her at 11 o'clock? Shall we go for dinner tomorrow? Nonsense it is, I'll tell you. What is his intention? If you really wanted to call her and if she is interested, she could have actually said no or yes. Ratri 11 gante phone madbeka. Right? That is it. And making sweeping statements. I'll tell you, this is a general problem, I'll tell you. Oh, this car is so sexy. It makes absolutely no sense. Car can be beautiful, good, attractive. What do you mean by sexy? Right? Look here, women are best model to sell products. And indeed, actually, women are the for most of the products, they are, for tires, they are actually the models. There are some kind of actually heavy machinery, they are the models. I still do not know heavy machinery in what way it is connected to women. Right? Still. But anyway, I will tell you, making actually such sweeping statements. See, if I say all JC girls are useless, if I say, you thrash me left and right, don't you? There could be some useless, but I can't make a sweeping statement like that. Can I ever? This kind of a sweeping statement should never be made. And any other verbal or non-verbal, I'll tell you, there can be hundreds of ways, right? And every day people invent actually new ways of verbal harassment and sexual harassment, right? Gesture and sounds and all these things actually will amount to kind of a thing. Look, I'll give you some data. Look, between 2014 and 2020, 64% actually increase actually in sexual harassment cases, right? 64% means it is it's prevalent literally in every area actually of employment. And in all more than 3,000 cases, I'll tell you, most nearly 91% of women actually do not make a complaint about sexual harassment because either they hesitate and or they are actually worried about the consequences of it. If she's an employee, she's worried about actually her job prospect. She could be terminated, or the boss actually could actually intimidate her and all that. So 91% of the women actually say, no, 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 let me avoid that person, they would say, rather than actually coming to the authorities. You believe it or not, I'll tell you, the least number of women actually who give a complaint when there is a sexual harassment actually is in United States of America. In US, only 1% of women actually go to the authorities for seeking redressal. You know, highest number of women where actually go to the authorities for complaint, to give complaint? India. Indian women actually are really brave. 27%. That's a big number compared to US. Only 1%. I want actually it should be 50% or 75%. So that actually, and don't ask me, sir, if the girls actually embarrass or sexually and assault us or harassment if they do it. Is there any kind of actually solution for us? No. As of now, no. Right? You'll have to wait for some more time. Maybe when cases increase, maybe perhaps actually our government will think that actually there can be sexual assault or embarrassment or sexual harassment even against men also might come. It takes time, right? You'll have to wait till then. And look, 67% employees, the ICC not working ICC means a local actually kind of a body. For example, wherever actually 10 and above number of women are working, you'll have to have a body called internal complaints committee. That you'll have to give a complaint there. The internal complaint committee, there are members here, so they will inquire into it and give out actually appropriate actually punishment, etc., etc. So you don't have to go out of your campus if there is a sexual harassment. You can walk into. I think there are actually the displays actually of the committee must have been actually be there actually in the campus, or there are phone numbers including my, because I happen to be one of the members actually of the committee. There are phone numbers, you can call them up and say, look, this is what exactly happening, because no girl actually wants to make it a public display of this kind of an act, right? And a report of Martha Farrell, it says most of these actually domestic workers face this sexual harassment because that's the most unprotected actually profession in this country. So literally every household will have a domestic actually help or a servant, and most of them, I don't say every one of them, and many of them are sexually harassed, but they will not be able to in fact go to the appropriate authorities, because if they do it, she lose her employment and job prospects will be very bleak, because others also will not actually entertain her, right? That's it. And further, 29% of laborers, 23% actually of domestic workers, 16% of small scale management workers were vulnerable, and sexual misconduct harassment actually is almost imminent actually for them. And there are plenty actually of this. I do not want to reel out actually all this data. I leave it here. If you are interested, you can look into this or Google it and you can find it. So what exactly this act says? In order to prevent it, what is that actually act saying? It says, it defines first actually sexual harassment. It's extremely difficult to define a particular act. What is sexual harassment? If I give definition, there are very innovative and actually genius people. They cause sexual harassment without bringing their act within that definition. This is, I'll tell you, is what exactly most of our intelligent people do it. They study, read actually the section very carefully, bypass it and do the act what they want to do it, and they get acquitted. Therefore, if you really want to give a definition, it should be so comprehensive, I'll tell you. Nobody should actually escape, right? That is, and somehow actually it gives a definition. I'll give you the definition. I don't think actually the definition actually is a very comprehensive one, but that is all we can actually do it, because our language, human language, actually is so an inadequate actually vehicle of transferring your ideas. It cannot simply convey all my ideas. I cannot convey simply all my ideas through my language, because any language, there are about 78,000 languages in the world. There is no language on the face of the planet which can effectively bring out all your wonderful emotions and actually images and thoughts. Some have actually managed to convey it, right? That's all. And it also safeguards against false and malicious charges. Look, these days, Indian women actually enjoy plenty of actually protection. If, for example, a housewife actually walks into a police station, says, my husband and my in-laws actually demand dowry and they're harassing me. If she simply makes a complaint and just walks out, that's the end of the story. The police will immediately, in fact, actually book a case, arrest the husband and the mother-in-law and all other relatives, and they have to, in fact, actually prove that we have not harassed. Till then, actually, they may not be given bail. And many times the case goes on and on. After 8 years, 10 years, I'll tell you, the court says they have not done anything, but till then, actually, they will have suffered a lot of things. So, Indian women actually have plenty of actually privileges. It is not actually given because they have to be given. It is given because, in spite of having given this, I'll tell you, 48% actually of Indian women actually suffer from the hands of actually in-laws. 48% of the total offenses that are committed against women are committed by the husband or family members of them. 48, nearly 50%. Right? Therefore, this kind of a privilege has to be given. And there is a quid pro harassment, means if you can cooperate with me, I'll take care of you, the boss says. And many women actually might agree also. Whenever you want to leave, you can take it. I want any kind of a promotion, I'll recommend it. If you are interested, come to office, otherwise don't come. Only thing is you must actually agree with me, and actually whatever actually demands I make, you must actually meet those demands. This is exactly what is actually called quid pro quo. And otherwise, hostile work environment. I'll come to that point later. So an employer, actually, you should make the employer responsible. It is the responsibility of the employer. See that there is a wonderful actually environment, work environment in any of these institutions. And if there are any such actually harassment actually take place, the blame also should be shared by the employer. And going further, the committee says we constitute actually two committees. Let me just actually give you the where there are 10 and above actually workers working, there has to be a committee called ICC there itself in that particular place. If the number actually of employees are less than 10, at taluk level, at district level, I'll tell you, the government actually will constitute. There will be actually 4 or 5 members in that. You'll have to go and actually give the complaint there. They will actually conduct inquiry, etc., etc. I'll come to that particular point later. And there are actual procedures. Within 7 days, if, for example, a girl actually comes to the committee, gives a complaint. Sir, there is a sexual harassment. Within 7 days, I'll tell you, should be inquired into. And notice actually should be given to that accused person who actually is said to have actually committed the offense. And you must complete the inquiry within actually 60 days. And action should be taken within next 90 days. In most of these actually cases which I inquired into, 60 to 70, so these things actually did not happen. We recommend, in one of the cases, what happened was, in one of the government colleges, I'll tell you, the principal actually was the accused. In the sense, actually was harassing a woman. So there was a person who was working there. He died, and on compassionate ground, his wife actually was given the job. His wife. Unfortunately, the wife was good looking. So once the woman is good looking, and there is no husband, you know what happens? The principal actually, so his dirty eyes actually fell on her, and he started actually harassing her, making her stay late, and all these things. And this woman actually tried to avoid and told him, etc., etc. And somehow actually other colleagues came to know, case actually came up before us. We summoned actually the principal vehemently opposed. Sir, I am a principal. He said, I know that you are a principal. How can I commit this? You are committed, there is a proof here. Many of your colleagues have come and actually told us. We'll have to do it. And we inquired into it. And found him guilty. Recommended immediately he should be transferred. And departmental inquiry should be conducted. Appropriately he should be punished. We sent it. After 1 month or so, there was a transfer. Transfer of whom? The woman. They transferred the woman from that college to another college, saying that it is not safe for you here. The principal stayed there till his retirement, and he retired and actually went away. So this is how actually sometimes ICC works. And if this is how actually it works, will you ever actually have any confidence actually in such bodies? So that man actually got retired and went away, idiot. Right? This is exactly happens. And this literally covers, for example, you take your JSS Science and Technology University. It is not just applicable for the students and all the women employees here. A permanent, non-permanent, temporary contract. Not only that, any person who walks into this particular campus, I'll tell you, whether with a purpose or without a purpose. If there is a harassment, that person also should be considered as aggrieved person. She need not be an employee. So it's so comprehensive because at the end of the day, what is our purpose? To see that actually every woman is protected in workplace. And what about actually at home? We have a different law for that. If a woman is actually sexually harassed at home, we have a domestic violence act and various other enactments. We are only concerned about what? Working place, right? Now, going further, look, there are some cases I think you should. Rupen Bajaj, you must be knowing it, one of the celebrated IAS officer, very senior IAS officer. And you must have heard actually one very dynamic actually IPS officer by name KPS Gill. The man actually was such an efficient officer who brought actually entire underground of Mumbai to its knees and literally demolished. Such a great actually officer. He was actually taken to Punjab because when Punjab actually was reeling under actually terrorism in mid 80s, right, at that time. He was a wonderful, within 1 year I'll tell you, he brought actually entire Punjab in normalcy. Such a wonderful officer. But this man actually had one weakness. This weakness was whenever actually gulps down a couple of drinks in the evening, he would actually always actually go behind women. So there was an official actually party where senior officers actually were there. This man also was there. And it was a party, I'll tell you, cocktail, he gulped a couple of actually drinks, then actually went towards actually women. He patted actually on this woman. And she was senior most IAS officer for your kind information. Patted. He thought this man is drunk by accident, he must have done it. Second time he pats actually from his left hand. Then said, I think it must be deliberate one. When he makes the third time, she objects to it very seriously, goes to the nearest police station to file a complaint. She is filing a complaint against whom? Chief of Punjab Police. Which bloody police officer will entertain a complaint? They did not. And she had to struggle for 16 long years, I'll tell you, to get it registered, to try that case. I'll tell you, after 16 long years, the Supreme Court said he is found guilty. He has to pay 2 lakh rupees compensation and 1 year of imprisonment. 1 year of imprisonment, I'll tell you, is suspended because he's a courageous police officer. Imagine, I'll tell you, I'm not talking about actually a domestic help or an attender or a P1. I'm talking about a senior most actually IAS officer. When a senior most IAS officer actually faces this kind of a problem, look at actually the situation actually of all other ordinary people, right? That's one. And this Vishaka case I just told you, where actually the Supreme Court actually gave the case, that one. And this Pachauri must be knowing it. This man actually is a Nobel Prize winner. Sexual harassment actually is universal in its nature. It doesn't mean that actually Nobel Prize winner should not do it. He did it, right? He works actually in Terry as a great scholar. He tried to actually, misbehave actually with women who were working there, and he was punished, right? Next comes, I'll tell you, KPS Gill, that wonderful police officer I just have told you. This Panish Murthy must all be knowing it, I'll tell you. He was working actually in Infosys in Europe. He tried to actually act smart actually with a girl, in European girl. She took actually a serious objection to it, filed a case, $3.5 million actually compensation. I think Infosys had to pay. Paid and kicked him out. Fellow, you are a very costly fellow. Here, please go out. He went and joined some other actually institution. I built it. There also did the same nonsense because it is genetic. I don't know where he is at present. I know. Try to find out where he is. You will be able to know it. David, I'll tell you, this man actually is a writer. This also man. This Ashok Kumar Ganguly is another wonderful creature. You know who is he? He's a Supreme Court judge. My goodness, sir. He's the man actually who's supposed to actually give justice. We send actually our final year and our law students, youngsters, good looking actually smart girls, for internship. This old man, nearly 63 years old Buddha fellow, she is almost like a granddaughter, He tried to play smart. That girl is a very intelligent girl like you. She just kept quiet, avoided him till she finished her degree. He finished her, enrolled as an advocate, filed a case against that fellow. But that fellow actually at that time was retired and he was working as actually Human Rights Commission actually member. Then the whole press actually in fact came on him. He had to resign. He tried to defend. His mouth was shut. Right? And similarly, one more actually judge of the Supreme Court called Justice Swatantra Kumar. Look at actually the name. Swatantra Kumar is free, right, to do anything. This man also did. And he came to know that actually press is going to be after him. He brought a stay. And judges, colleagues, they try to in fact protect them. Immediately granted a stay. The stay is there actually for the past 6-7 years. Still there. The girl actually did not proceed further. Look, sometimes actually how justice is given here. And Tarun Tejpal, I need not tell, but this SP Rathore case you must actually. He was chief of actually Haryana police. A high school girl, actually, one girl, used to go to a club actually to play tennis in the morning and also to swim. This stupid actually old man, not very old, maybe around actually 50 or so. So his bad eyes actually fell on this high school girl, I tell you, 12 years or 13 years. He harassed her so much she committed suicide. And later on, actually, case was filed, and his wife was a lawyer, right? She fought her husband's case in Supreme Court, lost miserably, right? Because that is how actually happens. Because when public and the press stands firmly actually in favor of the accused, I mean, sorry, the aggrieved, you can certainly, in fact, actually work wonders. These are some of the cases. Now, I'll give you the definition. Try to understand. These are actually the offences that you are not supposed to. Madam, but not yes, yes, because teachers is very difficult. Unless the bell rings, they will not stop talking. Since there is no bill, that's why I actually asked madam. Okay, what is actually sexual harassment according to this one? Look, broad range of unwelcome, sexually determined behavior. They include physical contact, simply touching and going. In a crowded area, simply actually you move like a bull in a china shop, touch them, push them, and just go. Oh, I'm sorry, say. If they object to it. If they don't object, take one more round back, right? And physical contact, demand a request for sexual favors. Demand it for a sexual favor. It's an open offer. No question actually hide and seek business here, right? Open. Sexually colored remarks. You should be very careful. Any vulgar jokes, etc., etc. You are free to crack, but where you crack, it's very important. In the vicinity, if there is any female being, please don't do it because it is an offense. It is an offense if she objects to it. Don't say how she is going to prove. Who knows, actually, she might have actually recorded it. She could even actually record it, video and audio. That's a wonderful, actually, kind of in evidence. I met a lawyer couple of years ago. I asked which area of practice of law you do it. She said, I do selfie divorces. I was, slightly, astounded. What do you mean by selfie divorces? You don't know. Selfie divorce means I get divorced only on selfies. What is this? She explained me. These husbands actually, usually most of them are mischievous idiots. When the wife is not at home, they actually go on a romantic actually tour with their girlfriends. When they go quietly, they should come back. No, there also they try to take selfie, upload it. What else you want? Solid bloody proof, I'll tell you. Holding hand to hand, actually taking a selfie on the Facebook. That one photo is sufficient to actually give divorce. So she has chosen that particular area of specialization. Wonderful area, right? She says there are plenty of cases also. So therefore here sexually colored remarks, right? Your freedom of speech is your fundamental right. My goodness, do it. But where you have to do it there, not elsewhere. And showing pornography, any other unwelcome physical, verbal or non-verbal contact of sexual nature. Any kind of other actual physical activity which is sexually oriented one, right? What it is, I can't explain because you can invent a new one, right? Do it. And it may range from gender-based taunting. Gender-based taunting means, because she happens to be a girl, actually you taunt her, actually criticize, condemn, right? That's it. Unsolicited physical contact. You may have to sometimes actually touch physically human because the job actually requires that kind of a thing. For example, a doctor actually while examining the patient, he has to touch. Nothing wrong in it. But wherever actually it is unsolicited, say for example, someone says actually, I am actually having cold, sir, means the doctor need not touch your nose and actually find out whether you are having a runny nose or not, right? If you do it, I'll tell you, unsolicited actually what? Advance. Similarly, the sexual gestures, don't ask me what are they. Some of you could be experts in that. Right? Offensive remarks. What is an offensive remark? I'll tell you, she will say, sir, this I did not like it. Right? So therefore, that's it. Vulgar stays. There are plenty of looks, the kinds, varieties of look. A sympathetic one, an aggressive one, a juicy one, and I'll tell you a bland one. I don't know, there are various. If the woman actually finds a stare actually something, I'll tell you, vulgar, she says, this man actually gives me vulgar look, sir. So what do you mean vulgar? I don't know. She says she is a vulgar look. You say you did not give it. It becomes his responsibility to prove that there was not a vulgar look. And embarrassing jokes, distasteful actually comments might fall within this. And nextly, there are physical sexual harassment include pinching. Simply pinch a girl. Go from the back, pinch her and just disappear. And hugging. You know, see, usually there are actually social, behavior actually differ from society to society. In the West, actually, when a young man is introduced, a girl actually will shake hand, hug her, plant a kiss, a very nice meeting, you would say. You would have to do the same thing actually in India. She will go to the police station, you will land up actually in jail tomorrow. Because, that is why in India we are very, very good. We say whenever actually girl is introduced, very nice meeting you, madam, thank you very much. If you take few steps backward, Sakapanim Savasan, right? In a way it's good, just fold your hand, say, why you want to go and hug and actually plant kiss? No, 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 that is their style, we can't actually apply here. That also becomes actually common. Hugging, patting, and leering, brushing against, touching, unnecessarily touching, all of them. See, I am telling you all these things, be careful. These things should never be done unless and until the other person actually doesn't mind. But Supreme Court actually has given a latest verdict. I'll tell you later what it is. The Act also prohibits sexual harassment, which may include promise of preferential treatment. I told you. You agree with me, I'll be able to help you. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Something like that. And threat of detrimental. If you don't agree, look, you had it. Be careful. That's it. Hostile work environment, humiliating contact, etc., etc. All of them actually come here. Look at the definition. Section 354 of Indian Penal Code actually tried to give a definition, right? But I would still say it is not actually a very comprehensive one. What is it? The following acts actually behave shall constitute actually sexual offense. What is that? Physical contact, advances involving unwelcome. I just explained it. A demand or request, making sexually colored remarks, forcibly showing pornography. Last one actually it literally covers all your inventions, all your new actually what ideas. Any other unwelcome physical, verbal, non-verbal contact of sexual nature. So therefore, all other new ideas, that actually come to the mind of the man can be brought within this. Therefore, we try to cover whole range of actually what? Sexual offences actually here. Punishment, you see, up to 3 years. Up to 3 years actually punishment, right? And look here, this is the another offence actually we have added here. Disrobing actually women, etc. It's an extreme actually situation where actually women are disrobed and paraded actually in public or in private places. It's a very serious offence. Next two offences actually are new ones we have added it. What is that? Voyeurism. You should be very, very careful about this particular offence. Okay. Whoever watches or captures the woman of a woman in private act and disseminates. If you capture actually the photo of a woman, say for example, in the campus you are actually moving around, you see a wonderful actually tree with lot of actually flowers in it. You try to take a photograph. A girl comes in between. So if you click it, that is what actually happened because in Mysore Palace, actually, woman actually was very feeling bad. So he thought actually because that was the illumination will be there in a palace every weekend. She went all alone because she never actually wanted to be bothered. She was just having fun there. A man actually from other state came. He was so happy to see this illumination. So he wanted to capture actually the photograph. When he clicked it, this woman actually came in between. Next day, he actually uploaded in his Facebook. The woman actually raised an objection. How dare you actually put my photo in that? Who has put your bloody photo? I have not actually put your photo. Behind you, what is there? That is what I wanted. The question actually comes into picture now, whether actually you have the right, in fact, actually take the photograph. Do you have the right to take the photograph of a girl without her consent? Our privacy law actually is not fully developed in India. You can take it if she doesn't object, right? But you cannot actually disseminate. In Bangalore, a couple of years ago, one senior most police officer actually was in a coffee shop actually drinking. Couple of girls actually were also having coffee. Maybe perhaps actually good looking girls. This man actually simply clicked the photographs. Those girls actually objected to it. Immediately they rang the police station. Immediately the police officer came. Look, this man is doing it. The police officer looking at this man, he was shocked because he was his boss. But somehow actually this came in the newspaper and he had to in fact apologize and he wanted to resign. That is why, but the section is very clear. It says, in privacy, when the woman actually is in privacy, you are not supposed to take actually a photograph. Means, say for example, peeping toms. Have you heard of actually these wonderful creatures, peeping toms? They're going to actually peep into the privacy of the woman, bathroom, washroom, bedroom, etc. If at all, if you happen to take actually the photograph, disseminate, certainly it will be an offense. Voyeurism. Minimum 1 year, I'll tell you, punishment. Right? If you take the photograph, if she objects to and share it, I'll tell you it's it. That's it. Next is stacking. There was no offense at all actually of voyeurism or stacking when this actually came in only 2013. What exactly stacking says? Look, any man follows or contacts to foster relationship, a woman despite her disapproval. Someone simply follows a girl actually to propose her, right? Though she is not interested, it is an offense. Stacking. If we just go behind the girl, it is not an offense. For example, the girl is going to the bus stop. You are also going to the bus stop, but unfortunately, you are behind her, right? If you do it regularly, if the girl suspects you, walks into the police station, every day he comes behind me, sir. If he says, you will have to have actually, you'll have to give an explanation to the police officer why you always actually go behind. And prior to 2013, there was no provision to book a case. You know what actually the police officer would have said at that time? Hey, fellow, don't go behind her. Here afterwards, go in front of her. That is all he could, because there was no provision of law. After 2013, actually, we have made a law. If you go behind her, relentlessly propose it. Simply go behind, there is nothing wrong. Don't worry. If you just go, I mean, here afterwards, you'll be very cautious. See that actually there is no girl in front of you. No, no, I'm not saying that. And if you go behind her to, in fact, propose, this is the most actually idiotic problem, because in America, the sexual harassment actually is very least. I asked actually because I was addressing a group of actually American students there during coffee break. I was asking, why actually in America the sexual harassment is very less. The answer was simple and straightforward. Sir, if a boy actually likes a girl, he proposes, would you like to a date with me? She, yes, okay, they date. No means she will find somebody else. In India, you take 1 full year to in fact actually strike this kind of a relationship. In the meantime, I'll tell you, there could be sexual harassment, case against you, all these things, right? I'm not saying there that actually all girls should be forthcoming. Immediately say yes or no. But that is how actually it happens. Stacking. And many times you know it, I'll tell you, interfering, monitoring actually use of internet, email, etc. First case actually took place way back actually 1996, actually somewhere actually between Karwar and Goa, where on highways you will have actually these gas stations. They also provide actually some toilets and actually washrooms, etc. There, one of the girls, actually very intelligent girl like you who went there, she suspected something actually in the washroom where actually there was a hidden camera. When actually she tried to in fact find out, it was connected to his actually computer, the cashier's computer actually in his office. That was the first case actually. Till 2002, 2000, when we brought actually Information Technology Act, we never actually considered all these actually things as an offenses, possible offenses. We never even thought, right? Because these days actually these hidden cameras could be anywhere. Anyway, that's it. So these are the new offenses that we brought in. Now, look, these are some of the activities or the actions which the courts and actually various bodies actually have held that they are sexual harassment. Right? I'll give you the list of examples. Look here. Making sexually suggestive remarks or innuendos. Sexually suggestive remarks means behind your actually what comment there is a sexual intention. Innuendo means multiple meaning. Or you are the most handsome means it has two meanings. You are the ugliest creature or you are really handsome. When someone is really ugly, you are the most handsome person. You say, it's an innuendo. Either of them actually will be taken very seriously. Serious or repeated offensive remarks. Once you make an offensive remark, you say it's an accident. Forget it. Repeatedly, if you do it, you have an intention to, in fact, bother her. And offensive comments or jokes. Some jokes are very, very offensive. And they are, I'll tell you, in low taste. If you do it deliberately in front of a girl, see what happened was actually in one of the college, let me not name the college, the clerk actually against whom the sweeper actually brought a case in front before our committee. The clerk actually was, sexually harassing her. So when notice was issued, the clerk came. The very first actually question is what happened, sir. ನಾನು ಸೆಕ್ಷುವಲ್ ಹರಾಸ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೇನೆ, ಅವಳು ಮುಖ ನೋಡಿ ಸೆಕ್ಷುವಲ್ ಹರಾಸ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಮುಖ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಯಾರು ಅವಳ ಮುಖನೇ ನೋಡಲ್ಲ. This was the comment he made. The committee members got really, in fact, wild. Don't ever utter. Now you have committed sexual harassment. How dare you say that actually the woman is so ugly? Who are you to say? Right? That itself is a sexual harassment. Anyway, he was actually punished. That's a different story altogether. There is actually a kind of, an attitude, both actually in men as well as women, They think actually that attitude is actually is acceptable to everybody. No, certainly not it is. And inappropriate questions, suggestions or remarks about person's sex life is none of our business to ask about actually person's sex life. It's absolutely private. Unless and until you have that kind of an intimacy, don't ever actually try to raise these questions because it becomes actually sexual harassment. Inappropriate questions and displaying sexist or other offensive pictures. Intimidation, threats, blackmail around sexual favors, right? Blackmailing is indeed actually possible these days. Somehow actually you take the photographs in inappropriate actually postures of the girl, then subsequently blackmailer, right? So that is thing. And unwelcome social invitation. Will you come actually for dinner? Will you come actually for supper? Will we go actually for some kind of a trip for a couple of days? I'll tell you, if you have that intimacy, you have crossed 18 years of age, you are free to do it. Not even your parents can actually question. If a 19-year-old girl actually comes home and tells the father, Dad, tomorrow is my marriage, if possible, you do come. What actually father should, either he should go to the marriage or he should not actually go to the marriage. He doesn't have, according to law, to threaten her or thrash her or do anything because she's a grown-up girl, right? And next, unwelcome sexual advances. Don't ask me what are those unwelcome. You all know it, right? That is not actually welcome. Girls don't like it. Physical contact, such as touching and pinching. Caressing, not touching and pinching, caressing, kissing, fondling someone against her will. Invasion of personal space, getting too close. ನೀವೇನಾದ್ರು ಮಾತಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಮೇಂಟೈನ್. ಡೋಂಟ್ ಆಸ್ಕ್ ಮೀ ಸರ್ ಹೌ ಮೆನಿ ಫೀಟ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಡಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಶುಡ್ ಐ ಮೇಂಟೈನ್. No. The law cannot actually define what should be the distance between man and a girl, woman, so that actually it is a safe distance. We don't say it. It all depends actually your relationship, right? What is the distance? And persistently asking someone out. She is not interested, but this man every day makes at least actually 3 or 4 times actually a proposal. Will you come with me? Shall we go there? Etc. etc. So sometimes, many a times, when actually persistence actually becomes increased, she might even agree also, right? And it has happened in our all dirty actually serials and our cinema show this, and many of us actually follow it also, right? It happens. And lastly, abuse of authority. A man actually who is in control of the situation can use his authority to get the consent of the woman, and falsely accusing, undermining persons actually behind closed doors, controlling persons actually reputation. These are the things. Look, the following ones I'll tell you may not be prima facie sexual harassment. On the face of it, they may not be sexual harassment, but that merits actually inquiry. I mean, you must look into it. What is the reason behind it? Like criticizing, insulting, blaming, reprimanding, or condemning an employee in public. You may be the boss, but you cannot actually condemn her actually in the presence of other employees. If you do it actually repeatedly, it could be a sexual harassment. Repeatedly. Occasionally you do it, I'll tell you, there could be a reason for that. But if you do it actually quite often, it is. Exclusion from group activities, assignments without a valid reason. There are two ways in which actually a boss can harass you. Either give too much of work to you, where you cannot even actually do anything, or take away all the work, actually make you simply sit quietly in the office. Both are equally harassing, and it need not be on the face of it a sexual harassment, but it merits an inquiry. You must look into why this man did it. You must look into it. Removing the areas of responsibility. You have some powers and responsibility. All of a sudden, entire thing is removed. You are actually without any power. And inappropriately giving a too little or too much of work, as I already mentioned. Constantly overruling. Whatever actually proposal she comes with, reject it. Outrightly, before even actually listening to it, actually reject it. This is, I'll tell you, indeed actually one of the things. And unjustifiedly monitoring everything that is done. Means whatever she does, unnecessarily go through the whole bloody thing and point out the mistakes, right? These are all, I'll tell you, not on the face of it sexual harassment, but an inquiry must be conducted. What is the intention behind it, right? Look, and blaming individual constantly, repeatedly singling out an employee, insults and humiliation, repeated attempts to exclude or isolate a person, systematically interfering with normal work, humiliating a person in front of actually colleagues. It happens, many times. When a steno comes, what kind of an idiot are you? You do not know how to type it. Look at actually this wonderful woman, how she types it. Though she is not a steno, she takes actually my dictation, types. It's a humiliation, I'll tell you. If you are not interested or you do not like actually her work, say it is not good, you will have to improve. but you can't actually make comparison and say she is good and you are bad. If you do it once, maybe it is an accident, right? Or unknowingly must have done it. If you do it repeatedly, I'll tell you that actually requires some kind of an inquiry. Arbitrarily taking disciplinary action and controlling a person's actually withholding resources. Nothing is given to that person. All resources actually withdrawn. These are not on the face of it, I mean, sexual harassment, but requires. But these following things actually are certainly not actually what? Sexual harassment, because committee receives plenty of actually complaints. So I inquired into one of the cases actually of AR Mysore. There, one of the cases where a woman actually, an officer, made a complaint that actually the senior most officer actually harassing her, sexually harassing her by giving actually more job, etc., etc., etc. Then when the case actually comes up before us, we can't simply just brush it aside because we have to look into it, because it's a complaint actually from a woman. Preference should be given. We inquired into it. Right? The man actually was a disciplinarian, the top boss, and this man actually was literally in a hard taskmaster. And this woman actually is a lazy woman who was actually doing her job properly. Therefore, actually, he was reminding quite often. When we conducted actually inquiry, her husband came, deposed against her. My wife is always like this, sir. Even at home, also in the office. So that was sufficient for us, right? And I actually wrote the inquiry report, but I did not hold her guilty. You know why? Because when I told you nearly 91% actually women undergo some kind of harassment, not many of them actually come forward because they're scared. And occasionally one or two women like this actually they come. When they come and the case actually goes against them, and if the recommendation says that she should be punished, nobody will ever come thereafter. So therefore I simply said, though there is no case in this particular actually sexual harassment incident, the woman should be warned, and she should be said that such things should not be repeated. That is what exactly I wrote. Look, these are not actually sexual harassments. What is that? Following up on actually work absences. The woman actually doesn't come to office at all in time. The boss should ask, na, right? And if he repeatedly comes actually late, if he asks sexual harassment, sir, because I'm a woman, he is actually making this. No, 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 I'll tell you. It can't be. These are actually many women misuse actually their privileges. Right? Many. And next, requiring performance actually of job standards. You have certain standards to perform a particular job. If you do not actually come up to that particular standard, so the boss has to ask, nah, you'll have to improve and actually come up. If repeated actually this kind of inquiry, if you say that it is sexual harassment, then I'll tell you that is an extreme actually situation. Normal exercise of management actually rights. The management actually will have plenty of actually responsibilities, because they need actually a job which has to be done actually within a time frame, and for that actually certainly they impose some amount of discipline. So this should never be considered as actually sexual harassment. And work related stress. Tell me who is not under stress these days? Right from the kid actually which goes to kindergarten to the man who is 120 years old, he is about to say goodbye and go away. All of them actually are under stress. Needless to say, you are all under stress. Are you not under stress? One of the most stressing actually period, you are just finished and come here. What is that? PUC, SLC and PUC are the most stressful actually years of a person's life. All that actually the future thing that you are going to do and the past, everything is compressed in those 3 years. In another 4 years, you'll get a BA degree. In another 4 years, whether you read or not, work or not, some degree you'll get. But there, nothing, right? 16 to 18 hours, most of you, didn't you? And after actually CET exams, you all actually spoke like a philosopher. What is there in life, sir? That remark should have actually come, because to ISKCON is very close to me. Quite often, actually, many students of this college actually who are passed out for software engineers. After a couple of years, they shave their head with a ponytail. They come. What were you? I said, I was 2015 actually student in SJC, sir, computer science. What happened to you? I asked. Why? What happened? I was working actually in some company. Afterwards, actually, I realized that there is no fun in it. I came here. They come and do the same thing. They want to, in fact, subscribe more number of devotees to that. job actually in software company and ISKCON, not much of a difference. I'm sorry if there are any devotees of ISKCON, should not mistake me, right? They do the same dirty nonsense here also, only with ponytail, that's all. And constructive feedback about the work mistakes. Everybody should actually ask for constructive feedback. If there are any deficiencies in actually my service, please let me know. If someone actually gives a feedback, if you take actually an offense to it, that's your mistake, not anybody else's mistake. Therefore, every employee shall provide safe working environment. So it becomes a responsibility of your university to provide. And don't worry, it's a huge area. I'll tell you, I don't think actually there is any kind of a restriction or a situation which is not actually so safe here, right? But there are plenty of places. And display penal consequences. I'm sure I'll tell you find actually penal consequences. The committee, ICC committee, all these actually displays you will be able to see across actually the campus. And organize workshops and awareness. I'll tell you, wonderful madam actually has introduced a session actually in your induction program. So therefore, there need not be a separate session as such, right? And subsequent assist securing attendance. I'll tell you one more thing. The committee they constitute, no, to inquire into it. That committee has a lot of actually powers. Our chairperson was here. I think she went out. She know how much power she has. She has the power of a civil judge. You ask me what is the power of a civil judge. So, say for example, you want actually a witness to come and actually depose. If the witness doesn't come, she can issue a warrant. In the sense, if she informs the police actually will catch hold of the idiot and drag that person before your committee. That is the power of whom? This committee, I'll tell you, as powerful as actually the court. So nobody can say, no, I am not coming. Don't worry. If you don't come now, next time you will have to come. You will be brought here by force by a policeman. Right? So that is it. And assist securing attendance, because many times many of the witnesses, they do not want to come. Yenike sir, why actually all this problem? And all this. Why actually most of them do not report sexual harassment? They're scared of the consequences. They're scared of the consequences because I've encountered into several other things. There are many actually teachers who have actually sexually harassed the girls. The girls have never actually revealed it because actually they're worried about actually what? Their future. And some of them actually, somehow actually when it crossed all the limits, they come out. When we have inquired and actually given the report, all those actually teachers are against us because we have punished them. Right? This is a thankless job. The ICC membership and actually work is a thankless job because you will be holding someone responsible for a nonsensical act which he has done, which he says actually it is not so. Right? And going further, treat sexual harassment as a misconduct. And if according to your service rules, that person actually should be treated very seriously. Monitor actually, that is why every year the committee should actually submit a report, and the report actually will be clubbed, and a manual actually will be made, and it has to be placed before the parliament session, the entire country, because the parliament also, not that actually parliament will be looking into all the reports, but anybody can actually point out any kind of a lacuna in any of these reports, and the parliament actually can initiate actually to set right that mistake. That is actually the intention of the lawyers. And in this internal complaints committee which I spoke, there will be 4 people. One of the persons, I'll tell you, of that particular institution, who is committed to the cause of women. That's very important. There are plenty of women. Not all of them actually will be so sympathetic to what? Cause of women. Some women actually will be more favorable to men. Some women actually dead against actually men. These activists are sometimes actually very dangerous, because I was actually in one of the talks actually an activist came about actually dowry harassment. You know what she said? All those people who take dowry must be hanged first, outright hanging. Oh my goodness, punish them. What do you mean by hanging? You straight away hang them, and subsequently come to know that actually this man did not demand, but his mother demanded. What will you do after hanging? This is what actually happens actually in Gulf, justice system. In most of the Gulf countries, what happens if a crime takes place today, the very same day, I'll tell you, they detect and catch hold actually of the culprit. Next day, trial takes place. Within one day, trial is over. Third day, the punishment is given. He will be hanged. On the 5th day, they come to know that that person was an innocent person. What can you do? That is why in India, sometimes justice gets delayed. You all must be knowing it, right? I'll give you one small example how actually justice gets delayed. In 1972, a Union Railway Minister, one Mishra, was murdered actually in Delhi railway station. 1972. You know, your Union Railway Minister actually is murdered in a public place, means the police came, actually conducted inquiry, charge sheeted, the case actually started. 1972. Went on and on and on. I'll tell you, ultimately, at Supreme Court level, in 2015, the case actually got concluded. 43 years after that. 10 out of 10 accused, 8 were dead. Only remaining 2 were there. They also begged the court, please give us death sentence, sir. There is no fun in living. This is the delay. I'll give one more example. It's not an example. How? Because I'm talking about actually delay in justice. There was a couple, they had this kind of a difference of opinion, husband and wife, usual. This is a natural thing. If the two couple do not fight, you'll have to suspect them. There must be something wrong. So sometimes actually it goes to the extreme. So the wife was so nagging, he was fed up. So fed up. So he went and asked a friend like you. So what to do? Hey, why are you worried, man? Take divorce. You can marry a girl who doesn't quarrel at all. This man thought there could be a wife who doesn't quarrel. At last, actually, this fellow, his friend, both of them went to a lawyer. The lawyer was ready. You want divorce? Huh? Come immediately, I'll get you. Because he's there actually waiting for a brief. So all the 3 people actually were in a hurry. Divorce and get a new wife and live happily. Just like in cinemas. They were in a hurry, but judge was not in a hurry. The case went on and on and on. After 25, he gave divorce. This man said, I don't want you keep it yourself. If you seek divorce, this is what exactly happens. Right? In India, not exactly sexual harassment, I'll tell you. Love at first sight, but certainly divorce at first fight is not there. You can love somebody, look at somebody, love somebody, I want to marry, you can certainly marry. Divorce is extremely difficult, I'll tell you. Divorce in India is only 1%. But in Mysore, it is 18%. Bangalore, actually, about 23-24%. Bombay, Delhi, etc., about 32%. Norway, Sweden, Denmark, 90% divorce rate. Nobody marries that actually that she is going to be my husband permanently or wife permanently. All temporary arrangements they make. Right? But here in India, we have only few reasons actually for divorce. 14 reasons only under Hindu Marriage Act. Only 14 reasons. You prove it. If you don't prove it, go and live with her. Otherwise, we will not going to give. Because you are married to live together, not to divorce and go away. Right? Because marriage actually is a sacred union of 2 people. But many a times actually judges, that easily they don't give actually. One husband came to the court and he said, I want divorce actually for my wife. He said, why? What is the problem with you? He said, sir, my wife makes me clean the vessel for 3 long hours, sir. Every day 3 hours I have to clean the vessel. Why 3 hours? I do it in 1.5 hours. What is the problem with you? The judge said, don't expect actually some kind of a justice from these wonderful people because they also suffer this kind of a problem. So therefore, my actually point at the end of the day is, don't get into this kind of a problem. After getting into the problem, inevitably these things actually happen. So the prevention is better than cure. That. So I think I should stop here and take questions because at least actually 10 minutes I must actually give for questions. Without question and answer, I think any session cannot actually successfully be concluded. Any kind of a doubt, boys or girls, you can ask. Yes. So we don't have any experience, sir, to ask question. Right? You don't have to have an experience. An imaginative actually situation you can. You have a question, please. You have a question? No, somebody raised the hand. Okay. If you don't have a question, concluding remarks. If at all, if you come across any kind of a sexual harassment, please actually tell it to somebody, maybe a close friend. I'm sure I'll tell you. You cannot actually go to the authorities or the principal, etc., etc. At least actually share actually with your friends, with your parents, right? And at least the parents, they will not keep quiet. Moment actually they come to know it, the parents will not keep quiet. Friends actually might keep quiet. Once actually the parents come to know that, certainly it will be brought to the notice of the college authorities, because the college authorities, when it comes on the parents, they can't keep it. The biggest problem actually with the enforcement of this particular act is non-reporting of the cases. The Indian girls actually have plenty of patience they have. They give actually many more chances to these people. One chance have given, take one more chance. If you do it again, you'll do it. Like that, actually, as a consequence of it, that person actually becomes very bold. Once actually he causes something nonsense and you do not report, he becomes emboldened and start actually repeating. Right? Therefore, one thing. And if at all, if a girl, I'll tell you, sir, she is causing lot of actually problem for her, you can also actually bring it to the notice of the authorities. Boys, don't ever say that actually we are helpless, sir. If a girl actually sexually harasses me, what to do? If not under Sexual Harassment Act, we'll actually give you some kind of justice elsewhere, right? If not this one. But this is one particular actually place where you will have to have that wonderful actually harmonious actually kind of a life, right? I would say personally, the boys and girls actually must mix freely, so that I'll tell you there is actually a healthy environment automatically actually emanates from it. You can't actually make it a rigid kind of a distinction between boys and girls. If you do it, a kind of actually very curiosity actually increases and the problems come. When you make them actually move freely together, a healthy relationship actually develops. It's good also, but you should be very careful. You should not actually cross the level of or the line of decency. When it crosses, I'll tell you, that is going to be a problem for everybody. That is what we do. We watch actually in the college, when they move freely, I'll tell you, we don't. When they cross actually the line of decency, we call them and warn them. I have saved at least actually a dozen girls who are actually well settled now. Otherwise, they would have actually lost their actually future once and for all. So it becomes a responsibility of the teachers also. Many teachers, they say it's their bloody problem, sir. Why should we poke our nose and all? No, no, no. We have a kind of a social responsibility here to see that everyone actually is protected, right? Boy or a girl, you should do it. So with this remark, I conclude. And if you still actually have any kind of a doubt, you can ask me. I think we have another actually 5 minutes or 6 minutes to go. You can ask me. Thank you very much.
No question? Hungry? But I hope all of you have at least become aware, and I thank sir for enlightening about Sexual Harassment Act, and through his experience he has shared so many examples. By now on, you can protect yourself as well as your family members or your sister, whoever is there at home. If they're working and if they face any atrocities, please do encourage them to go complain and also create awareness among them. It's very much essential for everyone. I thank Suresh sir for joining us and delivering this session. I request the organizer to present him a token of respect. Thank you, sir. Next session will resume at 2:30. You please assemble at 2:20 here only. Thank you.